Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Eshwar from R2 classes. So today I'm here to explain you about the endocrine system in biology. So let's get started. The endocrine system. So what is this endocrine system and how does it work? So I'm here to explain you about that. So endocrine system. So we have the syllabus is the endocrine system, general study of the following endocrine glands, that is adrenal, pancreas, thyroid and pituitary, and the difference between endocrine and exocrine glands. So the endocrine glands secrete certain chemicals known as hormones, which are also known as chemical messengers. The hormones are extremely important secretion for the regulation of body activities. So many of the body activities are regulated by the endocrine glands. Some of the endocrine glands are adrenal, that is it secretes adrenaline, and pancreas. In pancreas, some of the hormones like somatostatin, glucagon and insulin is secreted, and in the thyroid thyroxine is secreted, including the calcitonin. And the pituitary gland, you have the two lobes in the pituitary gland, the anterior and posterior, and the need for the regulation of body activities. So what is the need for the regulation of body activities? Many of the body activities which are taking place in our body needs the endocrine system. That is very important in our body in order to function properly. So the activities in our body are very highly complex, and they need to be so regulated that every activity takes place at a proper time and in a correct sequence. So each and every activity in our body should take place at the proper time and in a correct sequence. That is more important in our body for the proper functioning and for the health of our body. For example, the gastric juice, bile and pancreatic juice should be poured into the food canal only when there is food in it. So these are certain conditions which the endocrine glands obeys, and also it is also brought about by chemical regulators called hormones, as I said it earlier. And hormones are the secretions from specific cells or glands in our body and are carried to all parts of the body through the bloodstream. So the endocrine glands, as I said, they are ductless glands, and the exocrine glands are ducted glands. So the hormones which are secreted by the endocrine glands are poured directly into the bloodstream, which travel throughout our body, and it acts only on the targeted organs. So most hormones are secreted by special glands, the endocrine glands. So what is this endocrine? The endocrine is split into two words, that is endo and crine. Endo, inside, this is internally occurring, and crine, separate, meaning they secrete internally and separately. So they also called ductless glands because their secretions are poured directly into the blood and not through any special duct as in exocrine glands. So now let's get started with the adrenaline glands. So adrenal, ad means near and renal means the kidney, as you know. The adrenal glands are the caps like structures which are situated just above the kidneys. So it is classified into the central medulla and the peripheral cortex. So the central medulla, what does it secrete is that adrenaline. It is also called as the flight or fight hormone, which is also called epinephrine and noradrenaline. And what about this peripheral cortex, right? So it secretes the hormone cortisone, which is again classified into mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. So let us now know about the function of adrenaline. So as you know, this is the emergency hormone which is released during the emergency situations. So adrenaline medulla secretes adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone which prepares the body to meet emergency situation, that is for fight or flight, to fight or just fly away or just run away. So extra energy is very much needed for our body to cope up with such situations. So this is the gland which helps us during that particular situation in order to fight against the situation or to run away from that particular situation. That is when we are excited or when we are angry. So at the particular time, the central medulla gets activated and it secretes adrenaline. So the functions of adrenaline, the emergency hormone, as I said previously, so it increases the heart rate. Central medulla secretion is accompanied by the increase in heart rate and increase in blood supply to the muscles. So so that the muscles get more strength in order to fight, and more glucose is released into the bloodstream, so we get more energy, and in that energy we can fight with that situation. And let us come to the adrenal cortex, and let's study about the mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. So the mineralocorticoid circulates the mineral metabolism, especially the sodium and potassium ions concentration. And what about the glucocorticoids? It regulates the carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. So what it does is it regulates carbohydrates and fat. So these are the main functions of the hormones which are secreted by the adrenal glands. So in general, the cortical hormones increase the blood glucose concentration. So it increases the blood sugar concentration and influence fat and protein metabolism in our bodies, and it regulates salt and water balance in our body, and it adapts the body to stress such as extreme heat or cold, infections, etc. So these are the main functions of the hormone which is secreted by the peripheral cortex, that is cortisone. So these are the main functions of the cortisone hormone. So there are certain diseases which is caused due to the over secretion or under secretion of these hormones. So these hormones, whenever we take any hormone, the hormone should be secreted in such a way that it shouldn't cause any of the imbalances in our body. If it is imbalanced, that is due to over secretion or the under secretion, there occurs a certain diseases in our body. So the hyposecretion or the undersecretion of adrenaline glands. So if it is secreted in less quantity, what are the diseases that we face are? So we face Addison's disease. So hyposecretion causes Addison's disease. And what about the hypersecretion, right? If the adrenal hormone or the adrenaline gland hormone, if it is secreted in over quantity, that is what is caused due to the hypersecretion. Hypersecretion causes hypersecretion of particularly adrenal cortex, that is cortisone. What if it raises? Hypersecretion causes Cushing's syndrome. So let's get started with the pancreas. So pancreas, the location of pancreas is behind stomach. The pancreas is located behind stomach in the abdominal cavity of the body. And the special feature of pancreas is that it acts as both endocrine gland as well as exocrine gland. So this is the special feature of pancreas. So in the endocrine part of pancreas, there are special type of cells called islets of Langerhans. The islets of Langerhans has alpha cells, beta cells and delta cells. The delta cells is not in our syllabus, so let us study about alpha cells and the beta cells. Pancreas contains special endocrine cells, that is islets of Langerhans, and in the islets of Langerhans there are cells called alpha cells, beta cells and the delta cells. So this is not in our syllabus, so let us know what does alpha cells secrete. Alpha cells secrete glucagon, which so the function of glycogen is to convert glycogen into glucose, which is stored in the liver, and the function of insulin, which is secreted by the beta cells in the islets of Langerhans. Insulin regulates the sugar level in our body. So let us know what diseases are caused due to the hyposecretion and hypersecretion of insulin hormone. the hyposecretion of insulin causes diabetes mellitus. As we know, this is the major disease in our country, and hypersecretion causes insulin shock. So what is insulin shock? When there is increase in the insulin level, or when there is hypersecretion of insulin hormone in the body, automatically the glucose level falls down rapidly and there is insulin shock, in which the person may directly have dead due to the brain coma, which is caused due to the very low level of glucose level in our body. So immediately the patient or that person is provided with sugar or sugar containing products such as biscuits or chocolates. That is what is done when there is hypersecretion of insulin shock, and it is very, very dangerous. So let us move on to the next gland, that is thyroid. So now let us study about thyroid. The location of thyroid is in front of legs, below larynx. The hormone secreted by thyroid gland is thyroxine, which regulates the basal metabolism in our body, and the second one is calcitonin, which is not in our syllabus, so you don't worry about that. So what is the diseases caused due to the hyposecretion and hypersecretion of the thyroxine hormone? Hyposecretion, that is under secretion of hormone, causes goiter and cretinism, especially in children, which causes mental retardation and dwarfism among the children, and myxedema. And hypersecretion, so which is the diseases that is caused due to the hypersecretion of thyroid gland is exophthalmic goiter, which has certain symptoms such as a marked increase in metabolic rate, because this is the over secretion of the hormone, which increases the metabolic rate in our body, rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, eyes are protruded, etc. So next, let us move on to the pituitary gland. So this is the fourth gland, that is pituitary gland. So the location of pituitary gland is it is located below hypothalamus, that is master gland. The pituitary gland is known as master gland, whereas hypothalamus is known as master gland. So the reason why the pituitary gland is known as the master gland is because of the reason that it regulates the activities of other endocrine glands. So the parts of the pituitary gland are posterior, anterior and intermediate pituitary. So what does anterior pituitary gland secrete is that it secretes certain hormones like growth hormone, TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, or which is also known as TRH, that is thyroid releasing hormone, and ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and GSH, that is gonad stimulating hormone. So these are the hormones secreted by the anterior pituitary, and the posterior pituitary secretes ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, which is also known as vasopressin, and the second one is oxytocin. So let me briefly tell you about the function of these hormones. Growth hormone, which regulates the growth of a person, TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates thyroid gland to produce its hormone, that is thyroxine, and ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone, which influences adrenal cortex to release or secrete its hormone, and gonad stimulating hormone. At last, it stimulates and regulates the activity of testes and ovaries, testes in males and ovaries in females. So some of the diseases associated with these hormones are growth hormone. Over secretion or hyper secretion of growth hormone causes gigantism, whereas under secretion or the hyposecretion causes dwarfism in children, and in adults it causes acromegaly due to the over secretion or hyper secretion, which results in the growth of abnormal long bones, which results in growth of nose, and there will be production or growth of extra bones and jaws, protruding jaws, etc. And ACTH, we don't have anything related to the diseases related to ACTH in our syllabus, so don't worry about that. And So let us move on to the posterior pituitary. So the function of ADH is to regulate the salt and water content in the urine, and which regulates the homeostasis condition, of course. And the function of oxytocin is that it helps in production of milk, that is it stimulates the mammary glands during the childbirth and contraction of uterus during the childbirth. And the diseases associated with ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, is that hyposecretion of antidiuretic hormone causes diabetes insipidus, which is frequently asked question. And there is a common doubt between the students, that is what is the difference between the diabetes insipidus and what is the diabetes mellitus. See, diabetes mellitus is caused due to the hyposecretion of insulin from the beta cells of islets of Langerhans in pancreas, whereas diabetes insipidus is caused due to hyposecretion of vasopressin or ADH, antidiuretic hormone. So what is this diabetes insipidus and diabetes mellitus? In diabetes mellitus, there will be higher sugar content in the urine, whereas there will be lower sugar content during the diabetes insipidus. So diabetes mellitus, as I said, is a major disease in our country. So next, let us move on to the control of hormonal secretion or the feedback mechanism. Feedback mechanism. So what is this feedback mechanism? Is that there is two types of feedback mechanism, which is positive and negative feedback mechanism in the hormones. So what is this negative feedback? As the name suggests, when there is over secretion of certain hormones, impulse will be created in our body, which will level down or which will stimulate that particular gland to secrete less hormone or lower the level of that particular hormone. This is the negative feedback. And what is positive feedback? When some of the gland secretion is very less, there will be a positive feedback mechanism which stimulates that particular hormone to secrete more of that hormone, to secrete more secretion from that particular gland. This is how it works. And if you have any doubts related to this topic, so please let me know in the Instagram page which is mentioned in the description below. So thank you, have a great day.